Hi, welcome to Project Geospatial. I'm Adam Simmons, and welcome to another segment of the Industry Limelight, where we interview interesting companies about their technology and services. Here with me is a special guest, Christina Geller. Christina, go ahead and introduce yourself, and we'll get into the product and service by your company and what's new and what it's all about.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me, Adam. My name is Christina Geller. I am the product manager for our newest product offering at Maxar Technologies called Maxar Analyst-Ready Data, or Maxar ARD.
Excellent. And just a little bit about your background. What's your geospatial background, and tell me how you got involved with the industry. I always like to tell the individual story as well.
Sure. I originally actually started out thinking that I wanted to be a journalist, and then realized that wasn't working for me right about the time I was in college. And I had been focusing on economics as kind of a side at that point. When I switched my major, my economics advisor that I had chosen required me to take Intro to GIS as part of agreeing to be my advisor. And I don't know if she regrets this now, because I ditched the whole plan of going to get a PhD in economics and instead pivoted towards geography and got my master's degree in geographic information sciences, focusing on remote sensing.
Oh, perfect. And just to dive into the Maxar side of things a little bit, talk a little bit about Maxar and before we get started in the ARD product specifically.
Maxar is a space infrastructure and Earth intelligence company. So we have a constellation of satellites. This includes WorldView 1, 2, 3, and GeoEye 1. We'll also be launching our WorldView Legion later this year. And with these satellites and our machine learning capabilities, we're able to provide geospatial intelligence and satellite imagery to our partners, both in the government and the commercial sectors.
Great. Now, the theme of this episode is talking about ARD. What does ARD stand for? What is it? And let's dive right into it. And what makes it so cool?
Absolutely. ARD stands for Analysis-Ready Data. It's a relatively new concept. There's been a lot of chatter about it over the last couple of years, and we recently, at the end of last month, outlined in a blog post exactly what analysis-ready means for us. So for us, this means that we're providing imagery with radiometric and atmospheric correction, orthorectification, and alignment. And this imagery is optimized both for cloud computing, but it's also configured to be very local to the end user. So the metadata is not based on the strip. It's actually looking at the individual AOI or area of interest that you're submitting. And then finally, because we want it to be ready, so by us saying ready, it's, you can just use it right away. We're doing direct delivery and ordering through APIs.
Great. So just to talk a little bit more detail about the analyst-ready analytics here. And so I've seen some different examples on some of the blog posts that get put out. The difference of the original strip imagery compared to the more, looks like, higher resolution. So is it using AI to enhance the imagery for analysis on the other side? What's the tech stack and understanding how this works and what's going on behind the scenes?
Sure. So within Maxar ARD, what we're doing is we're taking the source imagery and we're applying our patented technologies to help out by removing, any kind of haze. So that's the atmospheric compensation that we have, or we call it ACOMP. This helps you distinguish what are the relevant features, versus what is just atmospheric noise. We're also applying our dynamic range adjustment. This does color balancing on the imagery. So that's why you might have seen in the example in the blog post, Adam, where you kind of have that darker image versus the nice light bright one. That's where dynamic range adjustment, or DRE, comes in. And this really enables you to identify objects, especially in more challenging localities. And then we also are applying our orthorectification and alignment process. So we're tying it down to a space in geographically on the Earth to make sure that when we say, this road is here, it's actually right there. We're enabling customers to do is to elect to run our bundle block adjustment process. And this takes wherever you've decided to order the imagery through Maxar ARD. It's going to configure within that deep stack however many images you want and make sure that everything stays aligned between the imagery. So if you go back a number of years in time, you're not going to see those roads moving around or buildings shifting.
So this makes basically a smooth imagery base map across the board, right? I mean, this in a lot of ways is an enhancement on top of the stripping out the cloud cover you've done in a lot of previous algorithms a number of years ago, correct?
Yeah, so I want to make a distinction between sort of this concept of a base map versus what ARD does. We do have a base map product called Vivid. And what that does is it gives you a really beautiful skin for the whole Earth or for a large area of interest. What ARD really does well is that time series analysis. So we're going back along a grid system. This is a Universal Transverse Mercator or UTM grid system that we've used to help us say, okay, in this spot in the Earth that you've selected, we're going to put our imagery and make sure it's aligned and beautiful within that imagery stack.
Okay. Can you talk a little bit more about who you hope to use this and how different is the APIs compared to some of your other product lines?
The APIs, they're brand new. They're specifically built for ARD. There's two of them. The first one is running, we call it the Select API, but it has a material selection service underpinning it. And that's really to help those customers who want to still pick out the best images for their use case. They know, how far back in time they want to go, where they want to go, what kind of nadir angle they want, a couple other metadata things that they can select, cloud cover, data coverage, et cetera. And then they can take that and put it into our order API. And this immediately kicks off as soon as you submit it, the order that runs through the ARD pipeline. So they're two very unique and different APIs from some of our other products that have APIs around them. People that we're hoping, it's not only those who want to, build their own imagery stacks, but those who are really looking to just kind of jump straight into their analysis. One of the things that we commonly hear is that you guys have a ton of data, or I'm getting all this imagery coming in. How do I make sure it lines up? How do I make sure it's usable? And with ARD, we're saying, let us handle that for you. You just tell us where you want the imagery, how far back in time you want the imagery, and where we should deliver it to, and we'll get it to you. And you can just jump straight into doing object detection, mapping, feature extraction, all sorts of different use cases.
And I'm sure the machine learning aspect to that is a big play here, especially talking about the bundle block adjustment with multiple time series stacks, correct?
Mm-hmm. Yes, with the AI ML kind of focus around ARD, we're really trying to enable that cloud computing. So the imagery is provided as a cloud optimized GeoTIFF. We're providing the stack specification, the spatial temporal asset catalog, both with the API as well as the metadata that we're delivering. And both those are to try to help out with the machine readability of the data that we're providing you, and also making sure that when you don't have to move imagery around, that you can just move straight forward from, I have my imagery in my AWS environment, I have my code that I'm writing or the new model that I'm developing. Let's just run those together and kick right off.
Excellent. So you just announced this service, and when can people start seeing this in action?
It is available now. So if you are interested, we have a couple of different ways that you can let us know. We have an example data set over San Francisco that's available on the Maxar Analyst-Ready Data product page. That is maxar.com/products/analysis-ready data. And there, as soon as you say, I want this data set, we'll send it out to you as a zip file. And then the other way is you can notify us through that same page saying, I'm really interested in testing out these APIs and learning more about it. And we would be happy to get people onboarded with evaluation and start digging in. The other way is we have a webinar coming up so you can see these in action, a little bit more screen share than what you and I are doing today. And I'll walk through how you can actually really dig into material selection service that we offer through that Select API, and then how do you place an order.
Perfect. Now, with that said, before we get to, because we do have a couple questions coming in from the audience and on different platforms. One of the questions we have from them is how much time do you aim to save the end user at the end of the day with this? And that might come down to the individual use cases, right? So, machine learning is a completely different use case, but I guess the question from the audience member is, what problem are you aiming to solve for your customers?
We've got a couple of different problems we're aiming to solve for them. So the first one, of course, is just understanding and getting satellite imagery to be perfectly lined up and ready to go and have all these processes applied to them. That's a pretty big resource and time intensive ask that a number of our customers have said, hey, I could use assistance with this, or this has really been slowing down my workflows. So that's the first one with ARD. We're saying, we're handling that for you. We're going to help you just jump straight into your analysis, and you can worry about writing out your code, doing your workflows, that kind of stuff. Don't worry about having to manage the imagery yourself. The other way that we're saving time for the customer is, a lot of times you end up, you place an order for imagery, or you're trying to figure out, I found it on the web, how do I get access to it? And with Maxar ARD, what we're doing is just delivering it directly to the environment you're telling us to. So you say, I have an AWS S3 bucket, please put my imagery right there, and we'll deliver it directly to that location. You're not gonna have to then move it around or download it. Some of these are really massive files that can really slow up your timing, your resources, your computing.
Another question coming in is, through the ARD access, do folks have access to the entire imagery archive of Maxar or specific satellite constellations? Are there any limitations, I guess they're asking?
That is certainly a great question that I know people are eager to learn more about. So
yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, so for the availability, right now we're focused on areas where people live and where we see demand today. So there are a couple areas in the, geographically, such as Antarctica, where we just haven't seen that demand. If you have a use case and you're saying, I really want ARD over that, let us know. We just haven't seen that today. In terms of the number of constellations or the number of satellites on our constellation that we do, today, it's Worldview 2 and GeoEye 1, but we certainly are working on opening it up to not only include our other Worldview satellites, but also as we prepare for Legion launch.
Perfect. And I think those are all the questions I have coming in, but I have one just because you mentioned Legion. Do we have an idea of when that launch is yet?
We have a launch date at the end of 2021. The September timeframe, I believe.
Perfect. We'll be excited to hear more about that as it comes along. I know it's a huge project for Maxar as we get yet another massive constellation with a lot of potential up in the air. So that'll be incredible to see what kind of capabilities come out of that, especially as it adds to a unique service like this. So
adds to a unique service, adds to the depth and breadth of our archive, adds the number of imagery that we're collecting every day. We're all super excited about it going on, being launched and coming online.
Well, Christina, I want to thank you for coming on with us. This is a very brief overview of ARD for Maxar's new Analyst-Ready Data product. And this is incredible insights. Thank you for talking with us. So for those interested in the webinar, as soon as we get more information about the webinar, we will post that in the show notes so everybody can check that out. For everybody else, as well as some of the blog posts that Maxar has posted about the product or service. So thank you, Christina, and thanks to Maxar for setting this up. I'm Adam Simmons from Project Geospatial. Thanks for watching, everybody.
Thank you, Adam.